Let's talk clutter. Clutter slows us down, keeps us frustrated, tells us stories that don't need to be told. And you fully know what it feels like to live amongst clutter. Now, let me be very clear about how I approach my own home and how I encourage you to approach yours. Decluttering does not mean becoming a minimalist. You can see by my background that that is not happening in this office of mine. So I don't want you to have this notion that decluttering is creating a sparse environment. If you are a minimalist or are looking to become a minimalist, by all means, tune into that aesthetic. Or if you're a maximalist and still have clutter, tune into that aesthetic as well, and everything in between. Because what we don't want is to let clutter drive aesthetics. We don't want clutter to drive who we are. So, as you're moving through these suggestions on how to manage your stuff, I want you to do it with an eye to the type of home that feels good to you, the type of home that nourishes you and holds you on a stormy day, that you wake up to and feel alive in. That is the kind of sanctuary I want you to create. Minimalist, maximalist, somewhere in between. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about clutter. The reality is that you already know how to handle it. You know what you need to get rid of, you just haven't done it. And really, clutter is unmade decisions. And my friend, you are not making the decision. That is what this is going to be about, is making the final decision on whether to keep it and use it and love on it and appreciate it, or to let it go. So we are going room by room, type of clutter by type of clutter, however this unfolds, in the most natural way, so that the questions that you are posing in the comments are answered. And so that we create this dialogue around releasing the stuff that is stagnant in our lives and in our homes. So it's actually floating out on Facebook somewhere on an old business page, maybe my current business page. I don't know. I tend not to go looking for it. I had this moment long ago when I thought that I was going to have this organization business. Like I was going to come to your house and clean out your closet and all of that. And then I did that a couple times and I was like, yeah, that's not my gift. Understanding energy is my gift, and that definitely plays into it, but I didn't want to be the one to actually do the decluttering. So I just talk about it now and teach it. But here I am in my basement, and I'm in this frame of mind that I don't want my, audience to feel alone, and I am recording some videos and taking pictures of all the clutter and what I'm doing with it and so on. And I open a box and it is full of scrapbooking supplies. And I recall going live on Facebook for this. And it's going to sound way more dramatic probably than it was to those viewers. However, it still feels very dramatic to me. And I go live and I've got this box of scrapbooking supplies, and I'm talking about how, well, I'll just talk about it now, how they have been sitting in this box for years. And when we moved here, I was going to scrapbooking parties because that was the thing to do. And this is how I was meeting people and meeting other moms. And the kids were young, and I thought this was a great idea. I also was connected to it through a family member. And I just am collecting and collecting these scrapbook supplies and never taking the time to scrapbook. So I come across this box and I realize that the story and the energy that it was feeding me was that because I didn't have complete scrapbooks for each of my children and then one for my family, really Chris and I, when we're empty nesters, I guess, was that I was just a bad mom, that I just didn't care enough to take the time to create the scrapbook. All my friends were doing it and theirs were beautiful. And I was a little jealous that they were making these beautiful, really works of art for their kids. And I never had the motivation to use one of those stickers, one of those ribbons, one of those pre-planned pages of our trip to Disney. And I equated that, the energy that was sitting in that box, beyond the amount of money that I had spent that was also sitting in that box. I equated that to being a mom who just didn't care about her kids, which really equaled a bad mom. And I know, even saying it, my friends, it sounds ridiculous. However, that stuff sitting in my basement that I would move to get to the Halloween decorations, to get to the Christmas decorations, that I would stick over here so I didn't have to look at it, was feeding me the energy that I was just not very good at being a mom, that I didn't really care about the memories. And I'm standing there live on Facebook. I remember just crying at realizing that I'm not a bad mother. And that those scrapbook supplies have no right to tell me that I am. And I continued to make the decision not to let go of them and to hold on to the energy that somehow part of motherhood that I was not successful at was creating memories. I mean, I think I've done pretty well. You'd have to talk to the kids. But when I look back, I feel like we have beautiful memories that are imprinted on our hearts and in some photos for sure. So I decided in its completeness to let it all go. Put it in a garage sale. Gentleman comes up, asks me how much. I ask him what he's going to use them for because he's an older gentleman. And he says, well, when my grandkids come visit me, I love to have activities for them. And I said, sir, where is your car? And in that moment, I let go of that story that a scrapbook equaled being a great mom. I put it in his back seat and I wished him well. And I told him it was a gift for his grandkids. And he drove off. And I let myself be free from that story. And that story lingered downstairs in that basement for years prior. And even saying it and sharing it seems so ridiculous. But that's the energy our stuff carries. It carries some sort of story. Good, bad, ugly. So my goal through this whole decluttering, room by room, type of clutter by type of clutter, however this unfolds, is that you understand the energy that you are taking on from the stuff you're holding on to that you've already called clutter. You've named it clutter. It carries an energy, and it does not need to be in your life if you've already named it clutter. So we're making those decisions to release that stagnant energy. Hopefully, we are creating a home, this sanctuary that we wake up in, go to bed in, live in, that is feeding us all the good vibes. And clutter feeds us lack because it keeps us late because we can't find things. It holds old energy that doesn't resonate anymore. It makes us judge ourselves because we haven't done the thing to get rid of the thing, to let go of the thing and let go of the story. Judgment, judgment, judgment. It really keeps us in a place that does not allow for expansion. And like I said, the moment I dropped that box in that gentleman's back seat, whoosh, I could feel space. Now, your home is truly a reflection of your life. And you'll start to hear me weave in a little bit about the energy of your space and how it relates to your life, even though we're talking about decluttering. And I'll weave in some of these foundations of feng shui because it really is all connected. And like I said, your stuff is telling a story. And the story that I want it to tell you, and that you likely want it to tell you too, is one of joy and creativity. And I'll use this word again, expansion and freedom and soul and spirit and alignment and a sanctuary that you go to sleep in, that you wake up in, that you nourish yourself in, that you get to create. So before we move on, I want you to stop watching this video because I don't want it to cause any more guilt and shame than you're already carrying for the spaces in your home that hold clutter. If you're not willing to make the decisions, to let go of not only the thing, but the story behind it. The pants that are too tight, the pants that are too big, whatever it is. So take a moment and press stop and close up if you're not ready to go on. Because our next step are ground rules. And I have a few. We are letting go of judgment. Like I sat there and valued that book of scrapbooking supplies, not necessary. I don't care how much it cost. If it is not serving you, if you do not hold a joy around it, if you do not love it and use it and desire it to be in your orbit, then you are releasing it, no matter how much it costs. No judgment. You cannot move through this practice of decluttering if you're going to sit in judgment of your stuff and yourself. Compassion. Compassion for the person you were when you bought it. Compassion for the person who gifted it to you. Compassion for the person you are now. Loving every single one of them. And still being able to make a decision. Progress over perfection. We are not trying to create the perfect environment. We are trying to create a beautiful, soulful environment that speaks our story. Who here is perfect? None of us. Do not give up. Do not give in. We are going to change the way we deal with clutter, we feel about clutter, so that we get to a place in our life where we're no longer decluttering, we're simply deciding whether to keep something or not, because it's not a big project anymore. It simply becomes the way that we cultivate our space. So if I think about the ultimate goal, outside of creating this home that is so aligned to your soul, that feels like a sanctuary, that feels like the place you want to be, the best vacation, the best place you could stay is your own home, that would be amazing. The second goal is to get you to a place where you are constantly understanding that editing your soul aligned sanctuary is how to keep your energy up, is how to keep your sanctuary a sanctuary. So off we go.